All right, on this episode of the LPDS, I rant and rave more so about Epstein stuff and the Iran war going on, and do a little bit of ranting about the Yankees. Not too much, though. I think I was pretty good about the Yankees this time, so you're welcome for that. And I share a moment I had earlier this week in the Junction. I share that moment with you in the Junction, and hopefully it can help you guys out a little bit. All that plus a Cage fact coming at you right now. All right, Jabronis, we're back. Welcome back to Libretti Podcast Diary Show. I'm your host, Libretti. Show that talks about nothing but tries to find the lessons in everything, and we have a good time doing it. At least we try to. I have a good time usually. Hope you guys do too. Hope everybody had a good week. Let me know about your weeks. Call the hotline and tell me about your weeks. Somebody. I missed the hotline calls. I don't expect the same people to keep calling in, but if you're new and you want to engage, hit that hotline 202-670-1114. If you're a ride or die, if you ride or die, ride or die. If you're a ride or die, tell your friends and enemies about the hotline 202-670-1114 to call that in, because I do miss the calls, but I also don't expect the same people to always call in. That's definitely probably annoying for you guys to feel obligated to do that. So anyway, a lot going on this week. A lot going on. I'm just going to get right into it. I'll talk about my week more in the Junction, but try to make this one a little shorter, as I say every single week. But I don't have plans to be too long-winded. We'll see how it goes in the Junction. You know how I get. But this is just a weekly reminder, once again, that a lot of the Epstein files have been released, and they are actively trying to snuff the story and change the subject and get us talking about other things. I'm happy to see several people online, prominent figures in different industries. There's some politicians that I'm always weird about when politicians are are staunch supporters of particular causes, because usually it means they're getting something out of it and it's not just for the greater good. So they're not the best to use here. But there are a lot of politicians, some politicians still talking about this and doing stuff about it. I've seen a couple of like influencers on the internet still talking about it, some celebrities actually coming out and still talking about it to try to get justice. They're doing stuff in different parts of the world to people that were on the list, and people have been feeling the pressure to resign from positions around the world. That Sultan or whatever he was that sent the torture video to Epstein. That guy, I forgot his name. He I don't know if he got fired or he left because they're going to take care of him. Otherwise, Prince Andrew got arrested. The headlines made it sound like he got arrested because of the Epstein, the photos of him and all the alleged pedophile sex stuff, but it's actually a little bit more, I guess, sleazy on the royal family's part than just that. They arrested him because there was an email conversation where he was giving away the royal family's like investment tactics and secrets, almost like an insider trading situation. So they didn't arrest him for doing stuff to children, assaulting children and all the other sick stuff that he's part of in that ring, in the Epstein ring. They arrested him because he was giving away their investment secrets, their insider trading secrets. Which, again, like I said, that's sleazy. To me, that sends a greater message that they continue. And I've said this before in the past about the royal family. I think they're sleazy. I think they're a joke. I think they've been protecting stuff like this and being complicit and have been complicit with stuff like this for a long, long time. And this is just further proof that they don't give a shit about the victims that had to grow up as child victims of torture and rape and trafficking and what have you. They only care to protect their own interests. And I know Meghan Markle is a psychopath and a nut job who only cares about her image and being in the limelight because she's a shitty actress and she's just good looking and she married Prince Harry and she told everyone they were leaving because they didn't want to be part of the limelight anymore. And even though she just started a Netflix podcast and went on Oprah to talk about it and parade about it and all this other bullshit, I think Harry dodged a bullet. I mean, he's dealing with another bullet in Meghan Markle, but I think he dodged a bullet by removing himself from this situation, this whole thing, because there's no way they didn't know about it. They removed Prince Andrew from the royal family for this very reason. And it was only to protect themselves, their image as the royal family, the Windsor House of Windsor. So they've known about this stuff. They've let it happen. I wouldn't be surprised if they've been facilitating some of this stuff in different rings in the past. But anyway, so there's still stuff is still being done to other people about it. Just nobody here in America. There's a couple of like professors and stuff who have stepped down from their positions because they were implicated. Cool, whatever. They still get to live their lives in freedom. Like nothing happened, basically. People will forget about them. And then you have, of course, these testimonies in Congress, these congressional committees or hearings or whatever they are. To me, it's a show. It's a show. I'm glad, I guess they're doing it because it keeps it in the news cycle enough for the people to still be paying attention to demand more, to demand actual justice. But nothing happens with these committees and these congressional hearings. Remember the whole stuff when the TikTok CEO came out, had a hearing? Zuckerberg from Facebook and Meta was in there. Remember he did the robot water sip that everybody made a meme out of? Like, what came out of those? Not much. You can argue if you dig deep that there was some legislation being passed around about, internet usage and these private, social networking companies like controlling everything, blah, 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 whatever. It didn't actually affect much of anything. To be completely honest with you. Yeah, the TikTok sold to US, or like there's a TikTok US only now to some, I forgot who owns it now, some Israeli company or whatever. But nothing changed otherwise. Like it's still this, if you read the privacy statement in TikTok, they're still taking the same data from us and we're acknowledging and being okay with them selling that same data. So nothing really changed in that regard. And nothing's going to happen here. The Clintons testified. They lied through their teeth to Congress. Hillary Clinton saying, I don't recall ever meeting. And now she used that word. She's not stupid. She's an evil piece of shit, but she's not stupid. I don't recall ever meeting Jeff Epstein is what she said, because that's plausible deniability. She didn't say outright like Rafael Palmeiro in the steroids hearings, I never took steroids, and he was pointing at them. I will never be accused of taking, I never did this and I never will. And then he got busted and eventually admitted to it. Hillary wasn't doing that. She was apparently she was screaming and stuff and hooting and hollering about other stuff, but she said she doesn't recall ever meeting Jeff Epstein. You just look up Hillary Clinton in the release files, and there's multiple pictures of her with him. So she said Ghislaine Maxwell wasn't invited to her daughter's wedding, to Chelsea Clinton's wedding. She was a plus one of somebody. She was just a random plus one for somebody else. That's that's a lie. That's bullshit. Bill Clinton lied through his teeth, said he never did anything wrong. His old aide, Air Force aide de camp or whatever they were called back then, he put out a story. He was an Air Force major at the time, maybe, and he put out a story of how Bill Clinton assaulted and molested one of the flight attendants who was an Air Force staff sergeant or something, enlisted member, married with kids. He molested her in the Air Force One bathroom, and the guy found out about it because after they got back to the White House and he thought his day was done, he got a call from the head pilot of Air Force One saying, "Hey, we got a problem." She just said, you know, he molested her in the bathroom of Air Force One, and she's a wreck right now. He goes, "Well, what does she want to do about it?" And the pilot said she just wants an apology. She doesn't want to be on the list of bimbos that Clinton has fooled around with. She doesn't want to be public and do anything. She just wants him to apologize. And he said that like a week later they met up with Bill Clinton and he gave some half-ass apology, like basically just to check the box and get rid of her. But he showed apparently no remorse. This is all alleged. No remorse, didn't give a shit, but he did apologize because he did it. He never said, "I never did any of that." He never pushed back and said, "I'm not going to be accused of something that I didn't do." No. They're liars. The Clintons are liars and criminals and murderers. They've been doing this for decades. Since before we were born. Before people my age were born, they were doing this stuff. They have a long history of it. So it doesn't matter what they say in these hearings. Even if they did admit anything, nothing's happening to them. What needs to happen is actual investigations. The FBI or a Department of Justice entity has to conduct formal investigations and then actually indict people and charge people that they have enough evidence of crimes, and then try these people. A jury trial. Actually do actual investigative work. Like an actual crime, because this is what it is. These are crimes. Okay? It's not just a weird thing. Drinking kids' blood is not just, it's a weird, quirky thing. That's a crime. You can't just torture kids and take their adrenaline-filled blood and then drink it and have rituals. Kids who were trafficked over there and kidnapped over there. That's a crime. I don't care that they're being paraded up in Congress and getting a stern talking to behind closed doors by a bunch of other criminals and hypocrites, and then nothing happens. Investigate these people. People say Trump's involved. Investigate him. Have investigations on these people. Trump, Gates, Clintons, Peter Attia. You can't really investigate. What's his name? The wheelie boy. Who's a wheelchair guy? Robot. He liked to have dwarfs do math problems for him at the island. What the heck was that guy's name? You know who I'm talking about. I like math. That guy. Well, oh man, it's gonna kill me now that I can't remember his name. Stephen Hawking. That's it. Bang. Got it. That guy. He's dead now, so you can't investigate him. At least Bill Gates finally admitted to fooling around with Russian prostitutes after he went on TV. Maybe it was 60 Minutes again or something recently. Did an interview saying, "No, I don't know where he got that from. I never did that. I never spiked my wife's drinks with antibiotics to prevent her from getting STDs. I didn't do any of that stuff." And then he finally admitted, but nothing's happening to him. He's going to go on, continue to make lab meat and inject it with secret mRNAs and viruses and continue doing contrails and cloud seeding and buying up all the farmland around the world and doing population control, all that crap. Going to continue doing that. No problem. And then what happens? As people are starting to get past their boiling point with this shit, what happens? Just like we said, doesn't matter the reason, doesn't matter if it was justified or not. Just like we said, we attack Iran. I mean, you can't make this shit up. And it doesn't matter if the reason was justified. You cannot tell me that the timing of all was just a coincidence. Oh yeah, they just happened to become weeks away from a nuke once again, right around this time, right around the same time where we're all getting accused and called out for either being pedophiles and rapists or harboring and being complicit with this whole operation. Just a coincidence. And like I said, I don't care about the reason why. Because if you're talking about protecting U.S. interests, U.S. national security, the American dollar, oil, whatever it is, it could be justified. I'm not here to get into that. That's a different conversation that we can have. I'm not saying we shouldn't have one way or another. I'm not here to comment on my opinions of this operation with Iran, because that's a full conversation, a nuanced conversation that you can make the argument either way, in my opinion. My problem is the timing of it all. When the LPDS called it, as soon as these files got released, what the hell did we say? We called it almost exactly correct. It still could be exactly correct if the alien stuff ever comes out. Well, what did we say? I even have it. You could go back to previous episodes. I said Epstein files are coming out. People are going to actually demand something be done about it, like what they're doing with other countries. By the way, the Norway guy, the ex-prime minister of Norway who got arrested, just tried to off himself in prison. They had to stop him doing that because he knows he's finished. Or maybe he was getting offed by somebody else so that he wouldn't talk. I don't know. But just when that's happening, what did we say? The files are going to come out. People are going to demand justice. And then what is the government going to do? They're going to take our attention away from us. The Savannah Guthrie mom kidnapping that the FBI is completely botching right now, and that whole situation is completely fishy. Don't even get me started on that whole deal. I already talked about how Savannah Guthrie was basically reading a script from Silence of the Lambs with, responding to the ransom demands or some crap. The whole thing is strange and weird. You got that. And then what did we say? They'll come in with aliens, or we got to go after Iran, some war situation with Iran, to get our brains and minds off of that. And now if you look on social media, all the memes and the postings are about the war, whether you agree with it or not. Who's the reason? Is it really for the U.S., or is it for Israel, or is it for this, or is it for that? They got the Ayatollah. Hopefully the people will be able... That's what they wanted. Okay? They wanted to get our minds off the Epstein stuff, because then they would be held accountable. They would have to hold themselves accountable to it, and they don't want to. They haven't wanted to the entire time. And I'm so tired of it, and I'm sure you're tired of me bitching about it. I'm not going to stop. Somebody has to keep talking about it. I'm glad there are still some people out there who keep talking about it. If you follow this guy, C.T. Fletcher, he's been a fitness guy for decades. And he's got his own podcast now. He goes to the gym. He used to do excruciating workouts with famous people and just beat them up in the gym. But he had a heart transplant. He can't really work out much like that anymore. But he's still a prominent figure. He's been just posting stuff about pedophile rings and child kidnappings and trafficking and stuff. So I'm glad people like him are still doing this stuff and they won't let it go because he has kids. And he knows people who have dealt with stuff like this before in the past. And it still boggles my mind that people don't care enough about this. And they're sweeping it under the rug. And they still continue to post their kids on social media. I just watched a couple of videos of these women talking about how looking at the different trends in the Instagram algorithm when they're posting stuff. This one woman, very attractive woman, when she posts stuff with just her and her husband, the algorithm in Instagram seems to push it all to women, predominantly women. I think it was like 89 to 95% for each reel, each photograph, each post. And it's been the same with other women, other influencers on Instagram. They'll show the stats, the analytics, and you'll see. I don't know why my video just froze again. Shocker. New camera, same problems. Anyway, you'll see them in the analytics. If it's just her and her man, the algorithm, it's all women who are viewing it. Thousands of views, and it's 80. I think it was 89 to 95% women. All the posts she has with her kids, we're talking 70 to 90% men are viewing those reels. Now, obviously, correlation does not mean causation. We got it. I completely understand that. But it is a little fishy that men are watching those videos and reels and photos and posts over the other stuff that she posted. What doesn't make sense to me is I know men. The brothers in my life, my friends and family members, all the men in there, we're not looking at that. We're not paying attention to women posting their kids online. Okay? If we're following chicks on Instagram or viewing their posts, we're skipping those. Okay? I could say that with confidence that I'd say 100% of the guys that I know that I'm friends with, I consider friends or family that have social media, they're skipping that. Unless it's their family member that's posting a picture of the family, they're skipping anything with kids. They just want to see the videos and the photos of the chick being hot and doing hot girl stuff. But so why are these videos getting 70% male viewership? It doesn't make any sense. You can make the indirect connection that it's being pushed to pedos on the internets. And there's other social media platforms, video game streaming platforms that are doing this very similar stuff. Roblox, that game Roblox or whatever that community is, I don't know enough about it. I know it's kids love it. And there have been multiple human trafficking incidents being done through Roblox. Snapchat, the same thing. Minecraft, the same thing. These predators are getting on there and they're grooming these kids and they're influencing them through the video game and the chat rooms and stuff like that. And then they're finding ways to scoop them up and do stuff to them. And it boggles my mind that this is not like global outrage from people, especially people with kids that want to be obsessed about trying to get justice for this and trying to bring this to a halt somehow. No, we're talking about the war with Iran, whether that's good or bad, whether it's for safety or for political interests or what have you. That's what they're doing right now. Fighting over whether we should have went in there or not. It doesn't matter. Okay? It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. It matters to my brothers and sisters in arms who have to go out there and do stuff potentially for that. I hate that. That's why I feel like military conflict should be a last resort, and it has to be well thought out and prepared for well ahead of time. And I'm going to be honest, we're not great at taking our time to plan operations out. The government's decision making on whether to do a conflict or not is very quick. Luckily, we have really shit hot members of our special operations forces that are doing the predominant actions out there for these small operations, our aviators and all the branches. Like, we still have, there's a lot of crap and a lot of shit in our military leadership, especially the higher ups, the politically appointed ones. A lot of those are a lot of those people are hacks and garbage. But the majority of like the in the trench ground level people are pretty shit hot still. And they're able to make these operations look well thought out and well prepared well in advance. And in the reality of the situation, more often than not, these are, I have an idea, 3 days later, we're going to execute on this idea immediately. And our shit hot military members are the ones burning the midnight oil to create these plans and make sure that their men and women are protected in these operations. And good on them for that. I love them for that. But this is not, the people making the decisions on whether or not to go to war are not doing the due diligence they should to protect our people in that regard. Our own military is doing that due diligence on the fly to protect its own people. So credit to them, not to the politicians making the decisions there. But otherwise, it doesn't matter. That shit doesn't matter. It's a red herring. The aliens release crap, that's a red herring. All of it. The EPA just announced that they're releasing all the information they know about contrails and cloud seeding and weather manipulation. I don't want to say full control, but weather manipulation. The head of the EPA just came out. You can look this up on the EPA's website. They just made a whole thing. I think it's epa.gov/contrails. Telling us those are real. Now, that's a big deal otherwise, but not, again, the timing of it is bullshit. Because they want us talking about the bullshit now. And they know we've been talking about contrails and aliens for decades. Calling us crazy conspiracy theorists. There's no alien. Aliens is, you're a nut job. No, we're not secretly seeding the clouds and doing contrails and putting chemicals and stuff in the earth or in the atmosphere. Oh, you guys want to talk about Epstein? You want us to actually hold ourselves and our people accountable, our leadership and celebrities accountable for kidnapping and raping and torturing kids? What about contrails? They're real. You were right about the contrails. You were right about aliens. They're real too. How about that? Hey, let's go to another war. How about that? We'll take your kids. We'll take the illegal immigrants that are coming on. We'll scoop them over the border and take their kids because they're not even documented. Nobody gives a shit about these stranger kids. There's not even records of them existing in this country. We'll just take them too, and we'll give you contrails instead. That's what we'll do. We'll finally admit that contrails are real. That'll even things out, right, guys? These kids will, if they survive, they'll never be the same again. And studies also show that they're more likely to also become predators as adults because of their trauma as children. We won't pay attention to any of that. We'll keep doing that shit and getting away with it. But at least you know that you were right about us seeding chemicals and metals into the atmosphere under the guise of global warming protection. You were right about that. Also, we have UFOs and aliens are real. You were right about that too. But your kids are still unsafe. Pay no attention to your unsafe kids. Forget about that. Contrails. Cloud seed. Give me a break. Give me a break. That's it. That is some of the most. It's been some of the most shameful things going on the past couple months here. It's an absolute shit show. It's embarrassing. It's despicable. And people should be ashamed of the government officials. The ones you voted for, too. And I don't want to hear these bullshit apologists. Well, it's Trump's the president. He should be investigated, too. Yeah, you're right. He should. But they all should be. They all should be held accountable. They're all doing it. They're all coming together and doing it together. This is a unified effort up there in their ivory tower that we've built for them in our stupidity. So I don't want to hear about, well, it's the right or, well, it's the left. No, it's all of them. Get your heads out of your asses. They're stealing your kids. They're working with Planned Parenthood to take those fetuses too. This is a huge, despicable thing going on. And they're sweeping it under the rug and you're letting them. That's what I don't understand. So I am going to continue to be that broken record that everybody eye rolls day in and day out until something actually gets done to help the future of our children and their actual safety. Don't give me anything about we got to protect the safety of this country. We have plenty of shit to do in this country to actually work to protect the safety of our people that we're not paying attention to. You're going to blowing up a bunch of sand jockeys over there in Iran. Those goat fuckers that took over Iran, the Ayatollah and his terrorist gang. Cool. That's great. What about the hundreds of thousands of kids who go missing? And they get tortured and mutilated and abused and molested by the people we're watching on TV day in and day out telling us to be better Americans. Come together as Americans. Give me a fucking break. So anyway, we started a war with Iran. There you go. That should be over in a matter of weeks, I'm sure, because then no one will care about it so they can move on and their goals will be accomplished. No more Epstein talk. That's the goal. So, anyway. Moving on to the Yankees very quick. I have purposely not been watching spring training games with the Yankees for a number of reasons. The main reason, though, is when we do our first stream for opening day, I think it's April 4th, I want to say. I got to see what time it is and make sure I got everything. I got to plan appropriately for that. But I want the streams to be broadcasting from a Jabroni fan's perspective. Now, I played baseball in the past, so I'm going to bring a little bit of that flavor to it, like knowing a little bit more of the ins and outs of competitive baseball and sports or whatever. I don't want to be a completely idiotic loser fan in that regard. But I don't have any desire to make this like I am this commentator, analyst, expert that I've been running the numbers and this and that. That doesn't appeal to me at all. And I get bored of that talk watching games on TV. I love David Cohn. I love Michael Kay. I love Paul O'Neill. I loved John Sterling when he was on. I don't want to listen to them talk about exit velo and talking around the problems that the Yankees have or anything else like that. All the official buttoned-up stuff that they have to say and how they have to act because they're on TV and it's a broadcast and it's cable and this and that. I don't want it to even be remotely like that. I want to go into this as a fan. I want to see the lineup for the first time and see these guys play for the first time on opening day. That's what I want my experience to be, and then I'm going to react to that live for you and out loud. And the first couple are probably going to suck, to be honest, because I don't sit at home normally and commentate and react out loud to things much anymore. When I was a young hothead, I used to do it all the time because I thought it was cool and it would get me attention. But I don't do that by myself with Randy. I'm not sitting and screaming at the TV. I usually keep it internal. So I'm going to have to actually do that. Emote out loud, if you will, and react out loud. So I'm going to work through it. I'm going to enjoy. I think it's going to be fun and enjoyable, but that's why I haven't been paying attention to the Yankees. I have seen, though, a couple of clips and some posts. Unavoidable. I'm on the internets. It's unavoidable. Seeing a couple of the guys playing, and I'm already kind of angry about it. And then maybe that'll be good for the streams, because I see these young guys, these prospects, doing good things in spring training. And I just know that they're never going to get a fair shot, because you got guys like Spencer Jones blasting the ball out of the stadium in spring training, but he's an outfielder, and they're never going to put him out there when they just re-signed Bellinger. Remember that big deal? They just re-signed him, and they're spending $22 million on Trent Grisham. Even though I like Trent Grisham, he's not worth a 16th of that. So Cashman is never going to allow a young prospect to develop up there with those guys out there. Plus, they're still stroking Jason Dominguez's cock like he's the second coming, and that guy can't even catch a ground ball in the outfield that's slowing down. He's got a concrete in his glove. The guy stinks in left field. And they're going to keep him out there because that's the ego thing for Cashman. That's the Gary Sanchez these days. At least he's not a piece of shit, lazy asshole like Gary Sanchez. He just stinks out in the outfield and he can't get better for some reason. But that's the Cashman ego play is, I'm not going to put Spencer Jones out there when we have Dominguez, because then I'm going to have to admit that I was wrong about Dominguez and he's not as valuable as I thought he was. So Spencer Jones is probably going to spend most of his time in AA and AAA. And then you have the other guy. Jesus, what's his name? Normand? That could be way off. But he's an infielder doing pretty good things. He played a couple of games last year in the show when guys were injured and also when guys were stinking it up. But you got Caballero is playing shortstop. I think McMahon is playing third, even though that guy can't hit off a tee. He stinks so bad at the plate. He's a good fielder. And then when Volpe comes back, obviously he's going to play shortstop because that's another ego thing for Cashman. He can't let go of that. Volpe is hot shit. He is hot, steamy dog shit. And he will and Cashman will never admit to it. And Boone will never admit, he's our guy. He's our guy. We love Volpe. He's good. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't have all the information. So, unfortunately, these young guys are going to rot in the minors. And then instead of even using him as trade bait to get other players, they're going to let them just devolve into valueless nothings, like they do with all their prospects these days. They don't develop them. And then the ones that happen to be good anyway, they take a dump on them and treat them like garbage. And when they're absolutely worthless, then they try to get rid of them. And then what do they say? Well, nobody wants these guys. Stink. Why? Who do we have to trade? Well, you ruin these guys. That's why. So get ready for these streams. I'm telling you, they're either going to be absolutely electric, or I'm going to get arrested or something after the first one. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. Now we can get into the good stuff, finally. And let's step into the cage.
Okay, let's run.
Today's Into the Cage segment is proudly sponsored by Slim Jim Fingers. For all you gym bros out there trying to hit your protein goals each day, but who also want to get your finger fix that you've been depriving yourselves of due to their perceived lack of health, Well, now you don't have to deprive yourselves any longer because Tony Riggs and his posse have added the Slim Jim Fingers to their arsenal of finger-licking good food. The Slim Jim Fingers combine the protein punch of a greasy, mysterious gas station meat stick with the breading and deliciousness of a deep-fried bowling alley chicken fingy. So to snap it to a Slim Jim Fingy today, just hang outside your local Circle K and one of Rigatoni's reps will supply you with all the SJFDs you want. And if you use the promo code FINGERBANG, you'll get 29% off your first batch of Slim Jim Fingies. I don't know what. I must be having some sort of connection issues while this video's cutting out. It drives me absolutely insane. Anyway, I saw this video of this guy, and he made. I swear there's somebody listening in the background on incognito mode to the LPDS, and then they're stealing our ideas. Because I saw this guy make a chicken cutlet pizza. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. Not a pizza with chicken cutlet pieces on top of the pie. The crust of the pizza was chicken cutlet. Okay? And I might hit up the creature one of these days for us to try and make this very soon because I think it's right up both of our alleys. Anyway, he took a bunch of chicken cutlets, chicken breasts, tenderized them, flattened them all out, put them all together next to each other, and then rolled up some cheese on the edges and curled and wrapped over the edges of the chicken cutlet pile into like a crust, like the edge of a pizza crust. So now it looked like a little bit of a mini bread bowl, except it was, it's made entirely of chicken. Then he froze it for a bit so that it would get solid. And then he took it out of the freezer when it was a little bit more solid. He egged it all up, doused it in egg, then breadcrumbs, like you're breading chicken, like you're making actual chicken cutlet, but it's a crust already. It's a big pie crust looking thing. So he breaded it, egged it, breaded it again, and then he did a quick fry in the oil in the pan to get it ready to rock and roll. Okay? Then he put cheese in the middle, pepperoni, I think jalapeno peppers, like he made a pizza on top. He put the toppings of a pizza in there, and then he took that and he put it in the oven on broil or whatever to cook it up. And then when he pulled it out, it was this beautiful, beautiful looking chicken fingy pizza. And he sliced it up and he ate it with actual pizza slices. So while it's a little bit different, slightly adjusted, if you will, from what our sponsors have been providing, this is pizza fingers. It's a higher quality Italian influenced, if you will, pizza finger. Instead of the fingies, it's chicken pizza. It's chicken finger pizza. He made chicken cutlet pizza. Like, it looked phenomenal. Phenomenal. And I love a chicken cutlet. You know me and cutlets. You know sticks and cutlets. And you know me and pizza. And I love pizza. And I love cutlets. And he combined the two. Just like pizza fingies. He just made it a slightly better. And this is what I'm saying. This is why I think somebody's listening to this, or we have a mole in the LPDS universe who's listening and then telling somebody else who has more influence and more skill set than I do, which isn't too hard to do, to be honest. And then they're going out and making a video about it, and then they're getting 1 million views. But anyway, I digress. The Cage fact. I believe we talked about this a while ago. But just to rehash very quickly, a few years after Top Gun came out, Nic Cage and Tommy Lee Jones made the helicopter version of Top Gun called Firebirds. And it was a spectacularly trash style, like 80s style action movie. It was supposed to be helicopter Top Gun, basically. It was supposed to compete with Maverick and Goose and Iceman, and the popularity and the success of Top Gun was supposed to be like that. And it bombed for various reasons. Not because of Nic Cage or Tommy Lee Jones, though. Well, it's been put on recently. This is the fact portion. It was recently put on Amazon Prime for people to stream if you have Prime. And apparently it is blowing up. Now, if you think this story sounds familiar, it's not because I am forgetting Cage facts and I'm just saying the same stuff over and over again. It's because this has happened before. A unsuccessful at the box office movie starring Nic Cage gets put on a streaming service, and the next thing you know, it blows up. I saw another one that they just put out on Hulu. I'm going to bring that up in the next episode. But this is what happens. This is further vindication to all of us here at the LPDS universe who step into the cage week in and week out. Further vindication that we are talking about, and we are on the right side of history when it comes to who we know to be the greatest to ever do it in the acting world. And it's Nic Cage. Because he could put out a stinker in the theaters, in the box office. And there have been a lot of those movies that stink. Some of them so bad they don't even put them out in theaters. They put them out on VHS, and they know that nobody has a VHS anymore. They still put them out on VHS only. And as soon as they make their way to years later, Firebirds came out like 30 years ago, 40 years ago almost. And they didn't advertise for it. It wasn't this big announcement from Amazon that just said, hey, we're putting out this new show, this new movie or whatever. Check it out. No, they just sneak it into the queue. Same with Hulu, same with Netflix. And before you know it, the popularity skyrockets. And these movies become these cult classics. And everyone's talking about it. I'm like, oh, you know, I'm the first to tell you about this movie. I saw it, and oh, you got to see this. I am, you know, I got it. I found the new cult classic. No, you didn't. We found it. And we found it when they originally came out because we've been in the cage this entire time. So if you think you're hearing this again as a repeat story, it's not. It just keeps happening. The guy is so good, he could put out absolute stinkers, and then years later, they can sneak it into the streaming service without even advertising or telling anybody about it. And before you know it, it's the most popular movie on that streaming service that week. The only reason the only way that's possible is because we're dealing with the best to ever do it. He is the best to ever do it. You can't say that about anybody else. Sure, there are plenty of quality actors out there who have never put out bad movies. And that anytime you put their movie out on streaming, it's going to be popular. Tom Hanks. Don't really want to talk about him right now because he's getting a lot of Epstein conversations lately. So I got to dig into him before I have any additional opinions on him. But Tom Hanks doesn't put out bad movies. Leonardo DiCaprio hasn't put out a bad movie. Daniel Day-Lewis hasn't put out a bad movie. So anytime you see one of those movies end up on streaming, yeah, people are going to watch them because they were always good and popular to begin with. Find me a Leonardo DiCaprio movie that got a 6% on Rotten Tomatoes and nobody went to go see it. And then all of a sudden blows up on streaming. You can't. The the difference is while these guys are very good acting, they're very good and they put out good movies. Their movies always have better everything else with them. They have better backing, better marketing, they have better supporting actors, better screenplays. They're never taking movies where they're the lone gunman and they're the ones who have to make or break this movie. It's on them. They're very discerning when it comes to what movies they decide to do because they're going to make sure that this movie is a hit. Tom Cruise, same thing. That weirdo. Don't forget your popcorn. You eat your popcorn? I love popcorn. They take their time and carefully examine the screenplay, and then after they see the screenplay, if they're interested from there, they find out who else is going to be in this movie, who's directing it, who's producing it, who's doing the editing, the post, who's doing the costume, who's doing the stunts, the special effects. They make sure that this is going to be a guaranteed hit, and it served them very well. Nic Cage just loves making movies. He loves his job, and if you throw a script in his hand, and if he doesn't have a movie he's already filming at that time, he's going to say yes to it. And he doesn't care about all the other stuff. Oh, your friend Joey from down the block, he got fired from his job at the deli, so he wrote this screenplay and he's making this movie. Yeah, I'll be in it, sure. Watch me make this a success. Maybe not when it comes out, maybe not a year from now, but I promise you, stay alive long enough and you will reap the benefits of asking me to be in this movie, of me accepting this movie. That's what Nic Cage does. He goes out there in the trenches, alone and unafraid, undaunted. No protection, no backup, nothing. He just goes in there and says, I got this. He puts the movie on his back. And it may be a marathon session before people realize it. It may be years and years that he had to carry this weight solo. But he always comes out on top. At the end of the day, 15, 20, 30, 40 years later, Nic Cage is now looking down from his throne in his castle saying, I told you Firebirds was going to be good. You just got to trust the kid. I told you I'd take care of you. And he does every single time. So don't expect this to end anytime soon. Like I said, I already saw another one on Hulu that's gaining popularity that I'll talk about in the next week if other new Nic Cage stuff doesn't come out. The greatest of all time, the greatest to ever do it. Go see Firebirds on Amazon Prime. That's a Cage fact. You're welcome. All right, moving over to the Junction, spin the logo up. I don't really know how to start this sort of conversation. I feel very fortunate that I have, the 12 of you, 13 of you at any given moment that tune in week and week out that I know will eventually listen or watch the LPDS. Right now, I feel even more fortunate because right now I'm talking to myself. I got Randy next to me. Randy, don't lick. Licking himself. I got Randy next to me, but I'm talking to myself. I'm venting out loud to myself week in and week out. And there's something therapeutic about that. But then knowing I can eventually I'll be able to connect with friends and fans and people who tune into this. I'm very fortunate I have this vehicle to do that. I would love to be able to connect with more people on a grand scale with this and Spearhead, but um, I'm very, very happy and feel lucky and fortunate to be able to do it even at this level right now. So I also feel more comfortable being open about stuff, vulnerable, if you will, knowing that you guys are always, you're my ride or dies. I've said a lot of stupid shit on here. I've that I'm sure people disagree with wholeheartedly, and that's completely fine. I've made mistakes. I've I've been a human being, and you guys still stick around. But like I said, I have this vehicle to be able to be open and vulnerable and talk through when I'm having problems with my life or struggles or venting about things because A, I have the the experience of doing this long enough to know that it's therapeutic for me. It's very helpful for me to be able to talk out loud right now and then know that when I post these episodes in the future, I'll be able to connect with somebody later on and they can say like, "Oh, actually, it felt like you were having a conversation with me live even though it was recorded and we can share this now. We can connect on this level because of it. You helped me do XYZ because of whatever." Um, most people don't have that ability. Now I'm getting somewhere with this. Just follow me here, fellas. I watched. I've been rewatching Rockies. Now this is not a Rocky review. Uh, Junction again. I've done that enough with Sticks. You know my feelings on the Rocky franchise. You know that it is the franchise that changed it all for me. And so I watch. Anytime it's on TV, I'm watching it. But this is the first time in a long time that I'm rewatching it solo. I watched it with my nephew, Miles. They had a Balboa out on AMC a few weeks ago. And we watched them all on AMC together, marathon. I watch it with Sticks constantly. When I'm home with my parents, if it's on TV, we're watching it. Like The Godfather, if it's on TV, we're sitting and watching it. We're not changing the channel. But I haven't watched it solo by myself in a long time. No particular reason why. I wasn't like I can't do it myself. I can't come to watch. No, I was just I see it so often when I'm home with family or when I'm with friends and it's on TV or whatever that it's not one of those like, man, I haven't watched Rocky in a long time. I better turn it on. No. So I never thought about it. But something compelled me to just maybe I saw a clip on Instagram of one of the from one of the movies, one of the scenes, and I decided I'm gonna rewatch them. And two things happen. I haven't gone through all of them yet. Well, by the time you guys tune into this, I'll probably have watched all of them. And when I say all of them, let me be very clear here. I don't count the Creeds. Not bad movies. Like I don't dislike them, but they're not Rocky movies. Like they're different movies to me. Okay? I will watch Rocky 5. I didn't really like it nearly as much obviously, but I didn't dislike it. So that's still in the mix. I'm watching Rocky 1, Rocky 2, Rocky 3, Rocky 4, Rocky 4 the extended director's cut, Rocky vs. Drago, Rocky 5 and then Rocky Balboa, which is you can call it Rocky 6 but it's not, it's just Rocky Balboa. That's the arsenal that I have. That's the cycle I'm going through. Now, again, two things happen. First, I might have found myself in one of my Libretti mental cycles of rewatching the same thing every day indefinitely. I am, by the way, I'm still on that with Reacher. Reacher is my background nightly show. If I'm not hitting sticks with the pals, Reacher's on in the background, cycling through the three seasons. That's been going on for over a year now. Okay. Um, I I believe I hit that with Rocky again. Maybe not Rocky 5, or maybe I won't watch both Rocky 4s. Maybe I'll alternate between the two after I watch both of them again in one shot. But I believe I found myself. This is one of those things where like I can't explain it. I don't have a logical reason why I get this way about songs or movies or shows or books or whatever, but I get in this rewatch mode and I can't control it. There's nothing anybody's going to say or do to get me out of the cycle. There is a there is a non-0% chance that on this future Italy trip in June with the gang, there's a non-0% chance that when we're at the hotels or wherever we're staying and we're hunkered down for the night, we're done for the night, I pop it into the laptop and I just quietly, have it on in the background. That's a non-0% chance. That's how when my brain gets into these modes, this is what happens. Luckily, it's not crap stuff. It's not bad stuff. Like I'm not watching I'm not listening to an audio book of like audio reading of Mein Kampf or something like that. It's all, motivational, inspiring, whatever. This is probably something I can talk to like a therapist about to try to get to the bottom of why. I I don't care that much. I enjoy doing this. It doesn't affect it doesn't negatively impact my life. It doesn't negatively affect my friendships or relationships with people or anything like that. So I don't care that much about it. To go talk to a doctor about why I do this, but uh, I I believe I'm there. At the time of this recording, I'm gonna after this I'm gonna pop in Rocky 3. By the time you listen to this, like I said, I probably ran through them all already, but I'm about to pop in Rocky 3. That is likely going to put me over the edge to get me in a rewatch cycle. Very likely. So I'll keep you posted on that. The second thing that happened, very, very strange coincidence, I would say, and I'll tell you what I mean in a second here. But I had I don't know, a moment. I I was finishing up Rocky 2. Now, the last 28 minutes of Rocky 2 are arguably the best in movie history. Because at that mark, 28 minutes prior to the end, I don't know how far into the movie it is time-wise, but with 28 minutes left, that's when, spoiler alert, Adrian wakes up from her coma. They see the baby that they had. She's okay. And up to that point, Rocky's not fighting Apollo Creed in the rematch. He's just at the hospital waiting for Adrian to wake up, and he's done with the fighting. And she wakes up. At that point, she wakes up and she's like, "Oh, how's the training going?" He's like, I'm not training anymore. She's like, "Well, what are you doing? What do you?" He's like, "Should I, what do you want me?" He goes, "What do you want me to do?" or something like that. And she just goes, "Win." And then Mick, he's there supporting because he's a trench guy. Mickey's a trench guy. Even Paulie's a trench guy. I'll tell you really quickly because I'm actually going to do a Libretti Leadership Lab episode on this. I started writing notes. I'm going to do a Libretti Leadership Lab episode on this. But Gazzo, if you don't remember, if you're not a Rocky fan, Gazzo is this mob guy, this street tough who Rocky was working for in the first movie, the first Rocky. He was a muscle. He was going to collect the gambling debts or beating people up who couldn't pay their debts. Gazzo was his boss. He was the mob guy. I'm going to do an entire episode about Gazzo being one of the best examples of a good leader that you're going to see in a movie. And I'll explain it all out. But Gazzo's a trench guy. Okay, long story short on this one, Gazzo's also a trench guy. Everyone's there waiting. He's going to all the boxing matches. He's going to the training. He's seeing them. She says win. Trench guy Mickey goes, well, what are we waiting for? Let's get going. Let's get to it. And then bang, ding, goes the montage music. And from that point on, arguably the best 28 minutes of a movie in the history of Hollywood. So I'm locked in. In my head, actually, I was watching the movie, and in my head, I was thinking, okay, if one of the gang texts me and says, let's hit sticks, I'm going to turn the movie off and we're going to hit sticks. Unless we hit this mark. Once Adrian says win, that's it. I am unavailable for the next 28 minutes. So no one was able to sticks it up when I was watching it that night. So we hit that, and then I'm locked in. And I can't explain. There's nothing that was really running through my head in the logical sense of like, you know, what am I doing with my life? This is what's going wrong. This is what I can. Nothing was going on in my head in the logical sense. But I had a breakdown at the end of the movie after he won and he holds the belt up and he says, "Yo, Adrian, I did it." And Mick, as everyone's celebrating and cheering. And then Mick hugs him at the end, and it cuts to the credits. I had my head and my schnoz inside my shirt. I was a broken man. I was bawling my eyes out like I lost my best pal. And I had this, and I think I had this moment because for a little while now, I feel like I've been distracted. I've been trying to push through day in and day out in the trenches with Spearhead and my goals and going after them, and it was almost like I needed this to just punch me upside the head back into the lane towards success and discipline and consistency of effort and purpose again. It was almost like I didn't know I was feeling lost and astray until I broke down. And I had that moment, and I was, after I got done feeling sorry for myself, I was realizing I've been down in the dumps a little bit lately. Times haven't been great from like a financial sense or things like that. My life's still great. I still love my life. I'm still very happy. Like I'm not gonna off myself. Don't worry about that. But shit happens. Life happens. This stuff does occur. And I was so far in the weeds, in the trenches, I didn't even realize it was occurring to me. And for whatever reason, like I said, I can't explain it. I hope people understand this, that I'm not trying to say, like, you don't understand, you're not an entrepreneur going through it, you'll never understand this, or that bullshit, you don't have kids, you don't understand. It's not that at all. It's I don't have the ability to explain why I had this moment, why I felt compelled to even rewatch a movie I've seen 1,000 times. There's no logic behind it. There is no logic behind it. It was just an impulse. It was some sort of intuition that just said, hey, rewatch the franchise that changed your entire life. Rewatch it now. You need your life to change again. You need to to course correct, and this is going to do it. And then you're going to break down. You've seen this movie 1,000 times. You know exactly what's going to happen, scene by scene, quote by quote, punch by punch. You know everything. And it's going to break you down as if you lost your best friend. And you have to build yourself back up again. I cannot explain the logic. This is on me. I don't have the ability and the capacity to translate the feeling I had and to verbalize why I felt this way, why this happened. And I'm sorry for that. And I just hope that you can, at the very least, connect in a way where you can say, "Oh, I've had that experience before, where something has happened to me, and I don't know why it happened, but it happened, and it broke down. I broke down, and I know that feeling you're going through, and I also know that I couldn't explain it either." That's what I'm hoping that we can share. Is not so much this specific situation of being down in the dumps and breaking down, but being in a situation where you can't explain what's going on and why it's just happening. Because that's what happened, and um, I still can't figure out why this went down the way it did. And it sounds so silly and stupid. It's rock. It's just a movie. It's just Rocky. And there's a lot of people out there who don't even like those movies, the Rocky movies. I don't understand that. I never will understand that. They changed my life. But I sat there and cried out loud, cried, not like I did when I watched Saving Private Ryan on the plane to Italy, and Wet Cat and Catwoman were sitting next to me sleeping, and I was trying to control myself. I was tearing up at Private Ryan, hiding it. No, this was I lost my best friend. I haven't felt this way since man, I think since my grandfather passed away, Big Al Scalingi, my mother's father. I don't think I cried that much since then. That was in 2011, by the way. Um, I was just, I was at that point, I was praying that Wet Cat or Creature wasn't going to send me a text message to ask to get on Sticks, because I don't know if I would have been able to Sticks. I was in shambles, but it gave me a chance to recalibrate, reassess uh, my purpose with my own life, with why I'm pushing for Spearhead, why I'm not doing other things in my life, what's it all for, and it was exactly what I needed to get back into the trenches and have a direction again. And then I got text messages from two friends from various circles of life. I'm not going to mention their names. It's none of your business, and it's not my place to identify. But two separate friends, mind you, that don't know each other. Um, and they both have been going through it separately, their own situations. One of them even said that he was uh he was in a real bad place, like suicidal ideation's bad place before he started to get some help in the last week or two. Um, but they both came out same night or same, I guess, same weekend, apologizing to me for not being around lately. Hey, I've been offline for a while. Just had a lot of shit going on. Uh, and I've been trying to handle it. And one of them said that, oh, it was real bad. I was gonna I was considering permanent solutions to the temporary problem. Uh, and we talked. I always feel a little guilty in those situations because I always feel responsible to my actions when it comes to being a good friend and brother. Is like, yeah, we haven't either hung out or talked in a significant amount of time for whatever reason, and instead of me realizing it and being like, hey, let me text this guy, see how they're doing. I haven't heard from them in a while. I wonder if everything's okay. I was in my own trench. And I'm lucky that they're still around, I wasn't I'm not terribly worried that they were going to do something super bad, but it was on the table for one of them. But we talked, we got to talking a little bit, and things are copacetic. But this is why I feel fortunate and lucky to have this vehicle here, to have the LPDS, to talk to you guys weekly. Because even though we may not be connecting live, like in person or even on a phone call together, um, I still have an avenue to vent. I don't know what how things would have turned out, what would have happened if I don't have this. Imagine I go through the last 3 months or so of my existence in the trenches, in the weeds, deep, deep, deep in the weeds, and I don't have this outlet every week to just shoot the shit about anything. I go on about literally anything and everything, and it's just an out. It's an outlet to get stuff out. It's an avenue to get stuff out, even if it's not the thing I should be talking about, like this right now. It's still getting energy out and burning calories and expelling shit out of me that was able to keep me okay for a while. And this past week made me realize that most of us on the men's side of the house don't have that outlet, or certainly don't feel like they have that outlet. So I share my story with you guys, not because I want sympathy or I want people to reach out and be like, I should have reached out sooner. I'm sorry you're going through. No, I don't. I get it. I like don't feel sorry for me. I'm sharing this because I I hope people realize that you're not alone. We all go through our own shit. Um, to always just consider that when you're dealing with people and you're trying real hard to follow number two of the big three. This is a good reminder that, hey, people are going through shit before you start taking jabs or whatever. Maybe consider that. But I share this story with you again so that you know that we all got this shit that we're dealing with in some way, shape, or form. And that I'm always here for you guys. And now there is a stigma out there uh, that does not seem to want to go away at all. Uh, that if you're a man, you handle your own shit. That's the stigma. If you're a man, handle your own shit. Talking to your friends about shit, talking to your spouse about it, asking for help from other people is a burden on everybody else. You're the man. You're supposed to be handling this shit. So asking your friends to hang out and talk and vent about stuff, or asking for help in any way, shape, or form, or venting about your problems, the idea of that is blasphemy, because I don't want to be a burden to others. You have your own problems to deal with. I get the sentiment. This is real quick caveat, LPDS caveat. I get this sentiment. Like, I'm not sitting here saying we're all wrong for it, and that I'm the best and you should be doing like me. No, 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 no. I'm in it too. I feel it too. I've done this for my entire life almost. Everybody has shit they're dealing with. Why would I want to put my shit on their plate as well? So I get it, but what I'm saying to you guys now on the LPDS universe, people listening to this, is uh, we got to stop that. Okay? It is not just a coincidence that the male suicide rate is exponentially higher than the female suicide rate. And no, it's not just because women can't finish anything and they stink at everything so bad that they can't even suicide themselves. It's not because of that. Uh, it's because there is a giant weight, a giant pressure on men still to handle your own shit. Don't bother other people with your shit. Don't burden them with your shit. Also, you're weak if you need help. And men push this. I've worked with so many guys that wouldn't would say stuff that, like, they would even refuse to ever see themselves in a negative way, or talk about any shortcomings of themselves, because they didn't want to seem weak in front of others. I've had people I've worked for me, that have explicitly said that to me. Oh yeah, I'm never going to admit to being wrong, or make a mistake, or be, perceived as weak in front of the group. I'll do that in, behind closed doors, because I don't want them to see me as weak. There's this enormous pressure on men, by other men, a lot by women, especially in America and social media these days, uh, which certainly doesn't help the dating world. But there is just an immense pressure on men to just figure it the fuck out. Your lady's got her own problems she's got to deal with. You're supposed to be the strong one. You're supposed to be the anchor, the foundation. She's supposed to come to you with her problems, and you're supposed to be there for her to help in that regard. And same with your kids, and same with everybody else around you. You don't have an anchor. You're your own anchor. Figure out your shit yourself. We all have our own problems to deal with. We don't want to deal with your problems. Figure it the fuck out yourself. And we grew up on that. We grew up on that. The adult men in our lives growing up push that, for better or worse. And I'm not dogging on any of my family members per se, because this is all they knew. But I 100% remember hearing that guidance. That was guidance you get growing up from grandparents, uncles, whatever, parents, anybody in your sphere growing up. All the adults basically would say, you're going to be the man of the house soon. You're going to have to be able to handle your shit yourself. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's going to be there for you. You have to do it yourself. Your family will depend on you to do this. And you're not going to put your problems on other people, because they have their own problems. They don't need your problems. So I get why we feel like that. And it just it hurt my heart a little bit when my friends reached out after, because I know why they did, because they feel like that still too. You never reach out in the middle of the shit when you're going through the shit, because you're busy going through the shit and it's nobody's problem but yours. Got to figure it out yourself. Not going to bother my pals with this shit. They don't need it. They got their own shit to deal with. And here's the thing. This is the message I want to send to everybody out there, especially the men listening in and my pals. Everybody will always have shit we're dealing with forever. Everybody around us will always have some level of shit all the time. There's always something that we are dealing with. I'm not talking about like something we get to do. There is always something that we have to deal with. Whether it's a physical thing, like, oh, I got to get a new job, or I got to go on this trip, or this and that, or an emotional thing, or a mental thing. There's always something that we have to deal with. We have to get better at at spreading the message that you don't have to do it alone. I will never feel burdened, and I like to think I have a good record, a historical record, and with my friends and family, that they've come to me with problems or asked me for help with stuff. I've never felt burdened, and I don't think I've ever made them feel like they were burdening me or hassling me with their situations. You'll never be a burden on me. If you're in the circle, if you're in the brotherhood, you'll never be a burden. If I thought you were going to be like, the burdens and the hassles, they're not in the circle. They're not in the LPDS universe. They're not in the brotherhood. They're not in there. Anybody inside this, you know who you are. You'll never be a burden. So if you want to talk, if you just need help moving a piece of furniture, if anything that you're just tired of shouldering the weight of alone, I'm around. I'm here. I'm never going to make you feel weak. I'm never going to tell you you're weak for getting help or reaching out. I'm never going to tell you you're a burden or a hassle, because you never will be. You know what's going to be a burden and a hassle? Is if I have to travel to your funeral because you put all the shit on yourself and you decided to pick the permanent solution to a temporary problem. Okay? You don't want to be a burden to me. You don't want to be a problem to me. Then come to me, even if you just need to chat and vent about stuff. Because I don't want to deal with the burden of losing my friends and family members because they never wanted to come for help. I don't want to deal. That's the burden. That's the problem I don't want to deal with. Okay? Anything else is not a problem or a burden for me. And I've pushed this out before. I shared this before. I wish more people that I knew on social media would have reposted this and shared it as well. I was a little disappointed in that, but whatever. I pushed this video out before about the 8-minute conversation. And I've talked about this in the past, but I'm going to rehash it again. I'll probably repost that video on my story again and get people to hopefully share it more. But there are studies out there that say a conversation with your friend that lasts at least 8 minutes drops cortisol levels in your body so much so that it actually helps, like this scientifically proven to help because of the chemical release, the cortisol release and whatever, and the de-stressing and the I don't know what else it's called, the levity of it all, of at least an 8 minute conversation is proven to help minimize people's suicidal ideations and offing themselves. And it can be a conversation about anything. One of the reasons why I won't even that's not even ever even remotely an option in my life is often myself is I'm on sticks regularly. I'm talking to my friends and connecting with them regularly for well over 8 minutes, and we're just talking about anything, just the connecting with them. I have no cortisol in my body, hardly ever because of that. So the conversation could be about anything. And the video I put out the message was, if anybody ever wants to talk, if they're having a problem, reach out to me and just text or call and say, hey, do you have 8 minutes? That way you don't have to feel obligated like, oh, I have to tell you, this is like a big intervention. I have to talk to him about a problem I'm having. And I don't want to admit that I have this problem. I don't want to seek help for this because I don't want to feel weak or I don't want to be a burden on anybody. If you just text, you got 8 minutes, then we can we could talk about anything. We could talk about the Yankees. We could talk about movies we've seen. Just talking and conversing for 8 minutes or more will drastically help drop those cortisol levels and those negative chemicals going on in your body and help you get through it. And that's another thing too. People don't want to talk about the problem because and I agree in some sense, when you're talking about your problem only and you're living in the problem, you're dwelling on just the problem, your brain is sitting in the negative and it's only going to get worse. So I get that too. Like I want to call my friend up or text him and be like, "Hey, I got this problem. I want to talk about the problem." Because then you're just sitting further and deeper into the problem more so. And often, a lot of times, people are not in a position to want to talk about solutions. This is a big sticking point with relationships. Women like to vent about problems, and then when their guy just says, "Oh, well, I can help you solve that problem," they get pissed because they're like, "I don't want you to solve my problem. I just want you to listen. I want you to be there to support me." And men are like, "Oh, I want to solve the problem, and you won't have to worry about it anymore." So I get the whole dynamic. So just having a conversation. If you text me, "Hey, you got 8 minutes?" Yeah, I know what that means. I know I'm not gonna bring up, "Hey, what's the problem? What is ailing you right now?" Because I know if you want to talk about it, you'll bring it up yourself. But I will always have 8 minutes for you, no matter what I'm doing. If I see the text, as long as my phone is on and on my person, no matter what I'm doing, I'm gonna have the 8 minutes available to you. And I want people to share that message in that video so that they know so that their friends and family also know that you're available to them. That was my hope initially when I made that video and I put it out there, was that let people know that you're there for them, that they have options. And I'm always going to be an option for anybody in my circle. So if you ever need it, even if you don't want to admit it, you don't have to. Just send me a text. You got 8 minutes? And we can shoot the shit about anything. And I'll always have 8 minutes for you. And I implore you, if you have a social media account, please also share it to let other people know that you have 8 minutes for them too. It's a very simple gesture to let people know that they're not alone and they don't have to be, and they're not going to be perceived as weak or burdensome for having shit that they got to deal with, and that they could possibly use some help. Because like I said, the problem I don't want to deal with, your problem and burden that I don't ever want to deal with, is having to bury you. Is having to put on a suit or fly out and sit there as they put you 6 feet under. That's the only problem I don't want to ever deal with other people in my circle, in the brotherhood. Anything else is not a problem to me. Never forget that. I know it's hard to just erase 30, 40, 50 years of feeling like you're a burden if you bring your problems to somebody else. I get that. It's easier said than done. But I will be so pissed at you if you make me go to your funeral because you didn't want to reach out beforehand. I'm gonna wake you up and I'm gonna kill you again if you do that shit. I'll hate you for life if you make me go to your funeral because you didn't want to ask for help or you didn't want to talk. And that is a long, convoluted weave of a story of how we got from where we are now to where we started with. I decided to rewatch Rocky this past week. So that's all I got to say about that, folks. Don't suffer in silence. Don't do it. I'm here for you. Anyway, before we go, the big three, the 3 pillars of staying strong and being a better, happier, kinder, healthier, less stressed, more genuine human being, being able to spread that positivity and goodness to all those around you throughout the land. Number 1, exercise every day. Do something every day, a little bit each and every day to improve your health, wellness, and fitness physically, mentally, or emotionally. Number 2, the hardest one to do, don't be a shitty person, be a kind person. When the opportunity arises to be negative or shitty or even just sit in negativity, take a deep breath, take the LPDS step back, detach from those negative emotions, and just simply remove yourself from the situation. And it could be as simple as just closing your phone and not pressing send on a comment or a story repost or anything like that, closing your laptop, walking away, whatever it is. Don't engage. Number 3, the most important one, be genuinely thankful and grateful for all the good you have in your lives. And you can do this each day by actively taking some time out of your day, a few seconds out of your day, to think about one good thing in your life or one good thing that happened to you in the last 24 hours even, and what your life would be like without that thing. Even if it's even marginally worse. Like I got to Sticks with my friends one day. If I didn't Sticks that day with my friends, yeah, I would have survived. Things would have been okay, but my life would have been marginally worse for that. And I'm grateful I don't have to live that life, that marginally worse life. I'm grateful that I got to do Sticks. It could be as simple as that. And you do that a little bit more and a little bit more each and every day. And the more you live in a state of gratitude, the easier it is to not be a shitty negative person, to get yourself out of the negativity and be positive and productive with your lives. And the more time now you'll have to go focus on exercising. And if you do these 3 things a little bit each and every day, repetition, 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 I promise you'll be a better, happier, kinder, healthier, less stressed, more genuine human being, be able to spread that positivity and goodness to all those around you throughout the land. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the hotline, 202-670-1114. Whatever you want to talk about on the hotline, it's open. Open airways on the hotline. Tell your friends and enemies about the number. Have them call. Get the prank calls in there. Get the comedy bits in there. Get the shitty impressions in there. Whatever you want to do, send it in the hotline, 202-670-1114. Thank you guys again. I love you all. Stay strong.